Hi, I'm Richard Perry, your Lake Elsinore car guy. Hi, I'm Richard Perry, your Temecula car guy. Okay, then your question was, should I lease versus should I buy? Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So keep in mind when you're leasing, you're renting. You're renting the car, you're renting that portion. When you're buying it, you'll own the car, and hopefully you've made enough payments, you've made the payments, and you'll end up with a title in your hand. You can either trade it in, use the value of that car to go on the next car, or just keep it and not have any payments for a while. And that's a nice feeling, knowing that you're driving a car without making payments. So the other thing, buying versus leasing. The other thing too with leasing is that there is higher insurance requirements. So again, take a look at that. They may state that they have to have a higher liability limit on that lease. So your insurance many times could be more expensive on a lease versus a buy. The other thing too about a buy is if you're financing it, you have to have full coverage, which means comprehensive, collision, which pays for the car, whether you wreck it or somebody wrecks it or it's stolen or something. And then a liability would be, of course, if you hit somebody else's property or that so on. So if you're financing or leasing, you need comprehensive, collision, and then and liability also. If you buy the car and you've paid it off and you have a small balance, some people just go ahead and change it to just liability only to lower their insurance costs. But keep in mind, that'll just pay for other people if you put damage to their property or their vehicle, but it won't pay off your car. So again, and contact your insurance agent to get more details of that. So again, do you want to lease it, basically renting, or do you want to buy it, end up with the balance, or end up with the title at the end? And for me, I've done both, but I've done it for different times in my life, in different situations and what I wanted to accomplish. And so look into that. Car leasing. Hey, that's a good question. Do you know car leasing is actually started back in the 1700s with buggies, with horse buggies. So leasing is really renting. Somebody bought it and you're paying a portion of it to use it for a determined amount of time. But here's the thing too about leasing. I've had people ask me many times besides you, hey, should I lease or should I buy? It's not a one-size-fits-all. You want to know what your current situation is, or what is it you want to hope to achieve. You get some people that want a very nice car. They want to drive the latest technology. So if you do that, then you would want to, and you don't drive a lot of miles, you could lease it, pay a certain payment for maybe 2 to 3 years, and then turn it in. And then keep in mind, you don't get any money back. You would turn it in for the end. So that would be, again, an idea. So you're paying for the newest part of the car, not to buy the entire car. So you're buying part of a car. For me, I was introduced to leasing in the 80s. In the 80s when it came out with leasing, and then through the 80s, late 80s, the 90s, General Motors they called it the smart lease. So they've always been branded. What is it? So and then Ford came up with called the red carpet lease. And they'd say, buy half a car, So the whole idea is, keep in mind, when you're leasing, you're typically paying just the portion you're going to use. So for example, they'll say the residual value. So let's say, I'm going to use round numbers. Let's say it's a $20,000 car, which is a cheap car nowadays. Just use round numbers. And they say it has a 50% residual value. Residual value means what's that car worth in the future. So then you're going to make payments on $10,000 for maybe 2 to 3 years at that, with a fee added to it. Now in that payment, you'll be paying your sales tax on that payment also. But also keep in mind, know your lease contract, because many times they'll have a limited amount of miles. They have 10,000 mile leases, 12,000, 15,000 mile leases. And you want to make sure that if you're going to do a lease, you want to determine what you typically drive per year. Because you don't want to end up at the end of a lease being stuck with a bill charging you 25 cents a mile that you went over and you just realized you went 20,000 miles over the limit. So those are things to know. Back when leasing first started, they had two types of leases called an open end and a closed end. Open end meant, okay, we're going to guess the value in the future. We're going to just charge you this portion, but we're going to look at the blue book, and then you're going to, if it's worth less, we'd like to get a check from you. If it's worth more, we'll take it. So you don't want to do that and have an open to an exposure of come up with money like that. So really, after that, they came up with what they call closed end leases. Closed end leases meant they would determine that's the value of that car. They would guarantee that's the value at that end of that term, based on that mileage and based on the condition. Make sure you didn't do damage to the vehicle. And you would have the option to either buy the car out at the end of the lease or to hand the keys in and start all over again, which a lot of people did. And a lot of people, and there were some people that actually bought the car at the end. But keep in mind, when you're leasing, you're making payment on you're paying sales tax on the payment. Then if you go to buy it, then they're going to charge you sales tax on what the balance is. So just keep that in mind again when you do that. I hope that answers it. And if you have any more questions, let me know.